You know, I watch a lot of westerns. I'm a huge fan of the western genre, and I've seen a lot of them. I'm always a student of them. I'm always seeking out as many as I can see because they're all so different. You can never see them all. You're always a student. You're always learning. Some of the earliest films ever captured are westerns, and here we are 130 years later still making westerns. And it's a uniquely American genre, but it's so changeable. It's so bendable and morphable. You've got the B Western with all those serial heroes, and you've got the 50s Western, and you've got the Italian Western, which is mimicking what Hollywood was doing through a European lens, and you've got the revisionist Western, and then you've got the second coming of the Hollywood Western. You've got Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, and we've got Dances with Wolves, which we're going to talk more about in a second. I don't think I've ever seen anything remotely close to or as ambitious as Horizon, an American Saga. Chapter 1, because that's what I just saw. It feels, I've just come home from the theater, and this is the phase where I'm like what did I see? I saw everything. There's no way to talk about this movie in terms of what's actually in it, because actually everything is in it. It is the most expansive. I mean, this is bigger than Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith. This is probably bigger than How the West Was Won. I think this is probably the biggest Western that's ever been made. It certainly will be by the time we've got all 4 chapters of this. Even if it was just this one story, even if it's just part 1, I'll include part 2, which we haven't seen yet. I have not seen. It's not out. Still a couple of months away. Even if it's just this is already bigger than in scope. It's a macro story that zooms in on and focuses on people, and then zooms back out again, then zooms in and focuses on different people, different territories, different parts of the country, different parts of the West, different characters that are in that, different time periods. We're spanning time. The beginning of the first hour of the movie is this sort of this origin story leading up to a conflict about the titular Horizon, which I don't even feel like I should talk about that, because you need to discover that for yourself. That's like this 1 hour preamble that just sets the stage for the story and the characters. Kevin Costner doesn't even show up until, halfway into the film, something like that, and you don't miss him either, is the thing. It's as if everything Kevin Costner has done up until this point was practice for this. Silverado, Lawrence Kasdan. There's a Kasdan connection to this movie as well. It's not Lawrence Kasdan, but the screenplay was written by 3 people: Kevin Costner, John Baird, and one of the Kasdans. And I think about Silverado as sort of like the beginning of the Kevin Costner origin story, and then Dances with Wolves was the thing that was like, oh, well, this is the pure Western article, right? This is the thing that landed him all the Academy Award kudos and accolades. But he doesn't stop there. That was 34 years ago, I believe, when he made Dances with Wolves. And he just continues to create and to push. And listen, if you haven't seen Open Range, you got to go see Open Range. You got to check that movie out, because it's incredible. It's an incredible Western. But this Horizon is his this is the achievement. This is his greatest achievement. This is going to be his legacy. Look, I don't even know. I think it's good. I know I connected with it. I know that all the things that I feel about it, so like even when I bought my ticket to go see this thing, I was like a little bit begrudging about it, because 3 hours is a long time. You add in, oh goodness, you add in a half an hour trailers and the Coke commercials and all that stuff, you're looking at 3.5 hours. And I've been really critical about Kevin Costner and the length of his movies, because he makes really long movies. I'm thinking Dances with Wolves, there's multiple cuts of that. Thinking of Waterworld, which he did end up doing some directing on that as well. But The Postman, right? It's a good movie. I like The Postman. It's too long for me. All his movies are just like, I'm like, can we cut him down? And so I've been really critical about, first of all, you guys know if you watch this channel, I don't like really, really long movies because I feel like people say, well, there's no such thing. The movie is as long as it needs to be. There's no such thing as a movie being too long. It's as long as it needs to be. I don't agree with that. I think that the human body has tolerances. The human body is wired for a certain attention span, and that you have to cater to that, because if you don't, you're going to lose the audience. If I have to get up and go to the bathroom, I've broken the spell, right? Now, having said all of that, I would still be watching Horizon Part 1 if I could. If someone could just bring me meals, if I could somehow go to the bathroom without having to get up, you know, I don't know, some sort of a device or a diaper situation. I don't want the movie to ever end. Like, it's the craziest thing. The last time this happened to me was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where I realized the movie is coming to an end and I'm sad. I'm like, oh no, even though it's been 3 hours, I'm like, oh no, I just want to keep doing this. Horizon: An American Saga, Part 1, Chapter 1, whatever we're going to call it, is incredibly moving and violent, and there are going to be people who say that it's boring. I don't want to know those people because I don't think it's boring at all. I think that, you know, I talk a lot on this channel about, you know, like the franchise machine, like we got to get back to the kind of cinema that built Hollywood, that I cut my teeth on, you know, coming up in the 80s and into the 90s, and movies like Dances with Wolves, frankly. This is a kind of movie that I haven't seen in a long time, and I am so happy that it exists. I mean, this is the scope of the film, the cinematography of the film, the score, huge orchestral score, symphony, you guys. We don't get a lot of that these days. This is, you know, I was going to say it was mythic, but it's not, because this is a movie that's challenging the American myth and presenting the history as it really was. How hard life was, you know. This is the kind of movie that I feel like they could show in a classroom to teach part of American history. But even saying that, I know there are people who are going to shrink back against that and be like, oh, I don't want, no, educational cinema. No, it's not educational cinema. It's just bringing reality from our past to life now in a way that we don't really get at the movies anymore, because they have to be this commercialized product. They have to be this neat little thing. Look, I don't know how this is going to do. I saw this movie on opening day. Well, it's like the day before, you know how like the movies open on Friday, but you can see them on Thursday night. I saw this movie on Thursday night. I was up until 3 minutes after the show started, I was the only person in the room, and then a couple came in. This does not necessarily have wide commercial appeal written all over it. And that's okay, because movies like this probably, you know, we're not in that. I think we're in like the Marvel place still. I mean, I'm not sure. People generally don't show up for thoughtful, dramatic, you know, the kind of movies that get awards. People don't often show up for those in large numbers. But my Lord, you guys, this movie is truly awe-inspiring. And I mean that. Again, there are things I'm like, this thing probably went on too long. Did this meander a little bit? But then I'm like, I actually don't mind. I want to spend more time with these characters. It's awe-inspiring. It really is. I mean, it's hard to watch. There's the battle scene that I was talking about is so gruesome. But that's life. That was life in the frontier. And then, you know, there's this whole aspect of, okay, this is a movie very focused about the people expanding, you know, white America expanding westward, and then the Native Americans who were already there saying not so fast, and then the clash, and then you see both sides. It's not as if there's a good guy and if there's a bad guy. Even the Apache, which has always been the antagonist in a lot of Western films, especially from the 50s. painted with, I mean, horrible, horrible, horrible violence, hard to watch violence, but painted with realistic strokes that I think represent the reality of the situation. This has the potential to be the greatest American Western that's ever been made. I'm not saying it is, because I haven't seen the other part of it. I haven't seen part 2 yet, but I know what I saw in part 1 was words fail. I can't even put my thoughts into words because I'm just like, wow. I mean, I'm really stunned. It's so impressive, the scope of this. Again, that we have never, I don't think we've had any, you could name a television series, but that's not the same as a theatrical film. That's not the same as the, a focused, and I'm so glad, let me say this, I'm so glad that this is a theatrical film and not a streaming series in 8 parts. Kevin Costner cashed in his Yellowstone chips to make this movie. This is the thing, this is, again, the culmination of his life's work, I think. I really do believe that. He has been trying to get this made for a long time because the man loves Westerns and he just wants to tell his stories. He's a visionary and he wants to be able to tell his stories. And it has taken him this long to get it done. I want to say it was like 20 years or something like that. I think he started on this around the time of Open Range. Research that. Do your own independent research on that. But what I do know is that Yellowstone afforded him the good grace with the studio system to get this movie made. He cashed in his, because he's not coming back to Yellowstone. And I've seen some really snarky, smug comments about that where people are like, the Yellowstone for this? What? I'm like, yeah, no trade-off there. This is so much better because this is his. This is this expansive, huge, epic, sweeping story that he has written and brought to life. And whether it lives or dies, the box office doesn't really matter. I mean, I want it to succeed because I love Westerns and I want more Westerns to be made. I also want good art to be rewarded. But whether it makes a lot of money or not, he made it happen. He did it. And it's his. And he's got that forever. That's a legacy that he leaves now. You got to see this in the theater because you won't be distracted by your phone. You won't make a run to the kitchen. The spell is woven and you're there and you're in it and you can't go anywhere. You're locked in, and that's the way to see movies. And I'm so glad I saw this in the theater. Opening day or preview day, whatever we want to call it. Highly, highly recommended. Don't even know what I cannot impress upon you enough how awe-inspired I am by this movie. This movie is really, it's something. Guys, let's continue the conversation in the comments below. When you see it, and I want you to see it, let's talk about it in the comments. Thank you so much for your time. Check out my other reviews for films. I have a huge review archive at serialatmidnight.com. There's a lot of reviews here on the channel too. Long live the Western, and long live Kevin Costner. Guys, till next time, I'll catch you later.